I'm standing in front of the Glasgow Synagogue. Now, you haven't heard a lot about Jewish or Muslim worship centers on these trips in the United Kingdom, partly because this is just not a place where these sorts of populations exist. And this happens for a couple of reasons. I'm in Glasgow in Scotland, which is pretty far north. It takes a lot for a Western Asian community to move this far north, and so there just have never been really Muslims or Jews who settled in this area until maybe the late 19th century. But there's another reason for the Jewish concern here in the United Kingdom. In the late Middle Ages, Jewish people were really important to the economic reality of Europe and what was then just before the United Kingdom. But they were also important in some negative ways, because Christians were not allowed by their church law to charge interest or to make loans. As you actually see in some Muslim communities, the Jews were conscripted to do this job. And so they tended to have sort of an economic center that some people rejected and struggled with. And because of this, over time, there was a negative connotation that developed about Judaism concerning money. And actually, there's a lot of stereotypes about Jews being pinch penny people, or people who will rip you off. And in fact, the word for jewelry comes from Jew. And so this has been part of the negative history of Judaism, and over time, actually, one of the kings of England decided that it was best to actually to get rid of Jews altogether here in the United Kingdom, at least in England where it was concerned, and also in Scotland. And so Jews several times were ejected from the United Kingdom, and so their populations are really slim. We see one reference in Shakespeare, and but usually of a positive character, but Shylock, but usually it's a more negative kind of an experience. But over time, in the modern era, Jews have moved throughout the world, and so this synagogue represents a meeting place for Jewish people to come on Shabbat, on Saturday, to leave their jobs behind and come by themselves or with their family and friends to this synagogue to gather and to prayer, to hear some words of encouragement, and to be together as Jewish people in a world that's very foreign to them. Now, I spent last Saturday night after an event talking with a Jewish friend from Tel Aviv, from Jerusalem, and he came to the synagogue here on Saturday morning, on Shabbat, on Sabbath. And he talked to me about some of this struggle. His family had been from two different places. His mother had been from South Africa, his father had been from the United States, and both moved to Israel in order to make a new home there with the Jewish people. His father was not overly religious, but my friend Ariel did actually come into the Jewish community in a committed way when he was a young adult. And he spends his life studying Hebrew poetry from the Middle Ages. It's quite a task. But where he lives, of course, the tensions continue. If there are tensions here in the United Kingdom a long time ago that resulted in often very cruel evictions and exiles for Jewish people, now there are real struggles in Israel and Palestine that still define the Jewish problem, as it's called by many today, and some struggle to find opportunities. In this class, we're going to be looking at some of this conversation and looking a little bit about Jewish history, because all you really hear in the media is this fact of the Jewish problem in Palestine, the Israel-Palestine problem, or occasionally the Holocaust. And religion matters, because what happens with religion happens in Jerusalem. It's a very important religious center in the world and is defining the fate of many. So we're going to be looking more deeply into that this semester.